Hi, this is Chris, and today we're gonna do another round of free critiques from the New Masters Academy forum. And if you want to have your work reviewed, you want to have your work critiqued, all you have to do is join us at NMA.art, and you can share your work on the forum. And this is completely free. You don't have to be a member, and you don't have to be a subscriber. And along with the forum, New Masters has also made their beginner lesson for free. And this is something they're doing to help out the art community, the art students as a whole during these troubled times. So all you have to do is go to NMA.art and you can access the beginner program and the community forums. And if you're already part of the forum and you're already sharing your work and you're waiting to have your work critiqued and reviewed, all we ask is that you add value first and be active. We're going to give priority to those who are helping others out and critiquing others' work as well. And if you're an art student, a college student, or you're an educator, and I know a lot of schools have been canceled, a lot of our work has been canceled, and if New Masters can help you in any way, all you have to do is reach out to us. And New Masters has already partnered with some of the top art schools in the nation, such as Laguna College of Art, Art Center College of Design, just to name a few. And we can help you by opening group accounts, opening student accounts. So all you have to do is reach out to us and we can support you in any way possible. So with that in mind, let's start with the first critique. Okay, we have a drawing from Trevor. And I do like their proportions he has here. And there's some really nice gesture that comes through the torso here. Now the main thing that I would do, what I would suggest, is to simplify some of these shadow shapes. I think overall the detail can be simplified and made clear. I think right away I want to see, okay, what is exactly going on with this shadow? So let's make that clear, and let's make, in terms of the shape, because right now the shape is kind of not clear, it's a little too busy. Let's simplify that, let's clarify that. There's a couple ways to do that. It looks like maybe we're influenced by Steve Houston, like myself. So let's simplify that right there. And all of this stuff is a little kind of, it's detail for detail's sake. So let's do that. Let's be very purposeful. Let's be very purposeful with our detail. Only kind of include it when it absolutely adds to the drawing, adds to the image. And this idea of the half tone turning in, like, see this, all that stuff in the leg kind of stops the movement of that leg, and you don't want that, all that busyness there. Kind of want to just quietly or more skillfully, transition into the leg. See that nice movement there? So that's working better. And then if you want to add your highlights, then you'd be very purposeful about that. You say start where it's closest to the light, a couple crest lights, and really that's about it right there. Once you kind of put them everywhere, they just kind of become a little bit noisy. They lose their impact and they become very distracting, and you don't want that, because the number one thing, like Steve always says, is you want it to ring true, and to ring true you need a clarity. Clarity comes with simplicity and purposefulness. So, all right, so thank you for your drawing, Trevor. I look forward to seeing more of your drawings. Thank you. Okay, here's another drawing from a Trevor also. So this, I believe, is from one of Steve Houston's lessons, or you may have did a master copy after him. Either way, that's wonderful. So I think right away, you kind of got the vitality that Steve has. That's because kind of his whole, one of his core things that he wants to communicate is vitality and movement, the kinetic energy. And you really have that. It's great. So let's look at a structural thing, because when you look at Steve, you tend to think, oh, it's just technique and flash and flare and edges and beautiful chiaroscuro. But at his core, he has exquisite structure. So let's take a look at that. So right away, obviously this well, the torso, right? I mean, structurally, the upper torso has to communicate and read well. It's not philosophically, Steve's one of the pioneers of this emphasis on structure, which is three-dimensional form, using gesture to communicate three-dimensional form. Right? He wants that, right? That tube. So we want to maintain that integrity, of his rib cage and this motion. So this integrity has to be in place. This integrity, meaning this gesture cannot be interrupted. This has to be clearly a three-dimensional cylinder. He's very big on cylinders and boxes and spheres, right? So the geometric nature of this solid geometric mass of it must be maintained at all costs. Same with this forearm, right? That this forearm has to read first as a three-dimensional solid, either a box like this, a cylinder like this, an oval, or something in between. He calls these other things interlocks, footballs, eggs. He loves to communicate eggs, which are cylinders. Spherical shapes. So that's point number one. The integrity of the three-dimensional solid that this drawing is based on, which is a big part of Steve's philosophy. This must be upheld at all costs. Especially this idea of the box and the tube, the tapering cylinder going away into space. So this is the core of his philosophy, I believe. One of the tenets of his philosophy. So next is the shading, which is far less important. But let's talk about that. And again, one of the things Steve is famous for, and he's loved and admired for, including myself, is his exquisite shading philosophy. So knowing that we have to maintain the integrity of the tapering cylinder going away into space, the box and the corner, let's do that. Right away, see this. Well, right away, this This is way too busy up here. This I've seen this lesson, but I haven't seen this drawing as a reference. But I know that integrity would not be compromised right there. He would keep that smooth, as smooth as possible, because he wants your attention here. He would probably see this kind of that technique down here kind of takes away in the shape of these shorts. This waistband takes away from the integrity of the volume, so it doesn't read as a cylinder. So let's bring that back, and this may not be in his drawing, but I'm just going off what I know of him and studying his work and studying with him personally. I know he would want that read, that volumetric read at all costs, and he would do that with lines. So that's not a shading topic. Let's talk about shading. So this tube, which is the sacrospinalis or erector spinae group of muscles, he would definitely maintain the integrity of that, the reed, the cylinder reed of that. And then over here, this is great. Your teres scapula area is great. This starts to not be clear or fall apart, so the clarity must be maintained. The clarity must ring true, and then you can add a couple of ideas, not too many, right? Because as long as this is, again, that is upheld, you want to counterbalance detail with, you want to counterbalance the pinching areas with stretching areas, quiet area, detail areas with quiet areas, and you want to maintain the integrity of this box. So this arm has to read like a box with a couple of eggs slapped on it. Eggs and boxes and cylinders like that. And then you could add whatever on top. So maybe this is still a little too busy. I'd have to look at the drawing to know kind of what's there. But I know there's a tubular muscle here, latissimus there, trapezius would be here as well. Then you could start to introduce ideas, but I hope that makes sense. You see how this has to be maintained, because if you look on the surface, you look at Steve's shading, it's like, okay, it's beautiful, it's flamboyant, it has these strokes and these beautiful marks, but there's a purpose behind each one. The purpose is to communicate the clarity of the three-dimensional form. Well, that's the main purpose. Then he has other things as well, obviously, but let's work on the basics first, which is communicate the form. All right, thank you, Trevor. Look forward to your next drawing. Thank you. Okay, we have a beautiful set of studies here, and right away, I love the naturalistic proportions, the gesture, and the overall line quality is really nice. And I think I know you have a really good understanding of the principles. You have a good understanding of anatomy, and you also have a good understanding of light and shadow. So let's take a look at the first thing that sticks out is this figure. And for me, kind of going back to what I mentioned previously in this video, is that a lot of the details can be very seductive. So it's kind of the artist's job to edit what you see and what you draw, what you put in your drawing. It's often what you leave out is what makes the most impact. And one thing that And one thing that would make this drawing better is to kind of simplify some of the shadow details happening, especially up here. It was like really not clear. I mean, you clearly understand anatomy, you clearly understand the concept of the shadow shape, which is great. But I think sometimes you want to kind of, well, you got to decide, okay, make a decision about the specific tones you choose to include. Maybe some of those tones red as shadow tones, maybe some of them red as halftone, and maybe you're not quite sure. And so the decision-making process is important. That comes with practice and experience, knowing what will be the best decision to group. And the second is to focus more, instead of focusing on the detail and the shadow shape, is to focus on what you're trying to say, what you're trying to communicate. In this case, you want to communicate, in my opinion, you want to communicate the torso region, upper torso, as clearly as possible. Oh, that's not right. So I feel like, to me, this belly button is something wrong with that belly button. I'm going to redraw that. This belly button should be here, I feel. It should be a little bit higher. There you go. And then we can get into the lower part of the abdominis rectus, this ab muscle here. And see, like this is, I have to see the reference to. See, now I'm pulling from my own anatomical knowledge. This is serratus, this is a latissimus, meeting the serratus here. So that has to read with more clarity. And this area is the shadow shapes. The shadow shapes don't tell a story. They look like, well, they're shadow shapes for the sake of being shadow shapes, which is okay. It's good to to practice that, but at some point, if you want your drawings to be really clear and more meaningful, you want to edit and design. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to design a shadow shape based on my imagination, because I have no idea what this looks like. So, in fact, this would not look like that if the light source was here. I'm trying to imagine. It might look something like that. Some more clarity. More clarity. Okay, so it's a little better. I mean, I would have to reimagine this and really take a look at it. I would probably need to I would look at reference or shoot my own, pose a model, pose myself maybe, or even this I'm having a hard time. So anyway, this isn't about what this is about. Is about clarity. So you have to design something here. It's just still, I'm not happy with that read. You see, now I'm inventing light, which is it's tough to invent light and get realism. Okay, so clarity. So clean up these shadow shapes. Make sure that they communicate something. In this case, trapezius moving into the delta. Even that's side of the face can be cleaned up, more clarity. And I'm not saying like to lose everything in shadow, but when the shadow is just as interesting as the light, then neither one become interesting. So you have to choose, make a conscious choice. And make this shape clear, make that read like, okay, this is, you know, this is the pec and the deltoid coming together. There should be a little bit of shadow there, the scapula or clavicle. So there's a lot of stuff happening here. And the last thing is the phase. So I think one thing is this little pocket of light is way too contrasty. I think I would just knock it down. There's nothing wrong with including that, but just knock it down a little bit. You see right away. It's still, you still see it as that little pocket, that little form, but it's not as overpowering and contrasty. So now you get a nicer overall read. All right, thank you. Hope that was helpful. Thank you. Look forward to your next drawing. Okay, here we have a beautiful illustration or little concept piece by Michael. Right away, I mean, I love the compositions, working really well. Interesting shapes and idea. Beautiful drawing with the soldiers and this tank. It looks like a tank. So the two things that come to mind is that would make this even more better and attractive. Let's see. One is scale, and the other is level of finish or detail. Well, first, let's address the scale. So by scale, I mean, when I look at this, the first thing I notice is this soldier, and second read is this soldier. And this soldier here feels like he's the biggest soldier in this scene, right? He's the biggest soldier in this scene, but he's in between this order and this order and this order. So what it looks like is in plane of space, you have men, 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 and then a big giant man, and then yeah, this guy. So this guy looks almost the same size as these guys. So does that make sense what I'm saying? So these two scale is very strange. So forgive me if, so either their scale is not reading correctly, or you're not communicating the space correctly. Like, are we sitting on this thing and these guys are further away? I'm not sure. So that's not good. That confusion is not good. So I'm just going to assume that this is some kind of order, that these guys are closest to us, second, third, fourth, fifth, and then sixth, right? So that's the order I'm going to assume. I'm going to assume it's first layer, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth of space, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I want it to be. So let's do that. Okay, so right away, this guy has to be way smaller. He has to be a lot smaller. And this guy has to be a little bit bigger. And maybe put another one of him, even bigger. So now, see what's happening here? So now the scale is starting to read better. And because of that, you would have to, you would have to adjust the composition a little bit by so you have to extend the clouds. So now the scale cues are starting to work in your favor, right? It's clear you put a lot of thought in this composition, which I love. You know, I was a digital painting teacher at NMA.art. NMA.art is one of the top entertainment schools in the world. It's in Hollywood. They specialize in VFX and things like that. And they, one of the common things I see in digital painting students, entertainment students, is they just go straight for the detail, and they just ignore the composition, ignore the tonal composition, the tonal read. But here, I feel that you clearly, I could be wrong, but you put some thought into the composition, which is great. So you see how already that's feeling more natural? I would even make the soldier even a little bit bigger. Right. So now it feels like, oh, okay, we're being pulled into your picture. You know, we're right behind this soldier or whatever. You know, he needs to be moved. But you see that sweep that's happening? You see that sweep? So now it reads like correctly size layer 1, size layer 2, size layer 3, 4, and then 5. So it's starting to read correctly now in terms of scale. Next, I would his gun, that's a great idea. Let's see if we can use that. So what I would do is put another gun here. So you go, oh, okay, this gun is bigger than that, so he's closer to me. This gun is even bigger than that guy's. You know what I mean? So he's definitely closer to me. So use that as a scale cue. You know, this gun can be composed as well. You know, to move. You know, to add some movement, and the angle of the gun can be composed. Yeah. Hope that makes sense there. So let's do that, and then finally is the level of detail. And actually, I may even push composition up a little bit. Feels a little cramped in my mind. A little cramped. Let's see if we can add some space up top. This may not work, I don't know. It may or may not work. It's worth it. Try though. I think a little bit of space up top adds to the composition. Just a little cramped, a little too close to the edge there of the frame. So you might have to extend the sky a little bit. Like so, and like so. I love the angle you use here. So I think that adds to it, and this texture is really nice. What you did there is really nice. So now the scale is working. And then the last thing is the level of detail. So you put all of your focus and attention and detail in one area, which is great. So now let's go in further. I know you're probably not finished with this, but obviously I would say, you know, see these two men, these two soldiers and the tank, they're about at the same level of detail. So show me which one is the most important in the story. Is it the tank? Is it this guy standing, or is it this guy? So pick one and render him out with a high level of polish. So let's say this guy gets level 10 detail, level 9, and this is level 8. So we're already at about a level 7. So that's all you need is. So that's all you need right now is to show me what you know. Take one area to absolute finish and polish. All right, thank you very much. Wonderful composition, and I look forward to seeing more of your work. Thank you. Okay, we have a wonderful, looks like a little portrait or a little head study from Veronica. So right away, I really enjoy the colors, beautiful colors, and I love the eyes and the way there's some orange here. I think that's great. So the first thing that I would want to do, the first feeling I get is it's very claustrophobic, and you may want that. It feels very tight, like he's right up against the edge. So normally I would like to give my characters a little breathing room. So let's see if that helps. This may not even help. I don't know. But it might. It might. So right away that feels a little better. It's got a little bit more space to work with. That's just a compositional choice there. I like these little light beams you got back here. It's like fluorescence maybe. That's working really nicely. So I think it does help a little bit, and you can continue to play, but it's just way too claustrophobic for my taste. But maybe that's part of the story. I don't know. And another thing that would really add to this is a sense of in background, which we can quickly be added by doing some repeating little things. This little um, instead of a line shape, why not repeat the the oval shape of this light source here? That adds to it. You can put one more way down here. You know what I'm saying? So now we feel like, oh, okay, we have a sense of space now, sense of perspective. And you did that very quickly by just adding, a few little dots, little ovals. Okay, so that's number one, making some composition choices. I think that's a little better, little less claustrophobic. That's number one. It doesn't need to be that big. The last thing is let's talk about color. Now, what I really like is the way the warm light with the cool. I think that's really nice. Cool shadow and this cool kind of bounce light. One thing as a and this might take away from the realism. One thing as an artist I would like to do as a painter is to see if I can sneak in some warm colors somewhere. So for example, there's a lot of warms up here, which is correct, but let's see if I can sneak it in down here. You do it at the edges, you do it at the edge of the face, corner of the mouth maybe. That might be too much. You know, you can overdo it a little bit. And it loses a lot of the realism. It's very tricky, but it just, you know, it's worth trying if it adds. I think this, because it adds a little bit more color harmony. So now some of this red is down here, you know. And you can even darken it. So bring some more down here. You have a lot of blue up top already. So this blue's already up top. So I think that's one way to add a little bit of color harmony. Try it at the mouth there. Really quick fix. And then maybe one last thing would be to add a few more differences in technique. And you're already starting to do that. Maybe put some line here. And maybe add some dots, just to add some variety to your brushwork there. That's the only thing I would add. A little bit of variety in brushwork, and then maybe address the composition a little bit. And yeah, it's one wonderful study. Thank you. Okay, here we have a wonderful pet portrait. So right away, I love the drawing. The composition works really well. The choice of colors is very simple. Color palette, which I love. Adds a lot of impact when you can use just a few colors well, limited palette, and really nice use of contrast too. So, but for me, what stands out is the beautiful drawing, and especially in the face. The most important part of any portrait is the face, and I think this artist really nailed it. Wonderful draftsmanship, the face, and beautiful expression. So I think a few things that might make it better, just some of my thoughts and my taste, is it feels compositionally, it feels a little too symmetrical, too like perfectly in the middle. So let's see. You know, this, and again, this is just my taste as a composer. Let's add some more frame, you know, some more of the frame down at the bottom. That could be really nice. So I think compositionally that works a lot better. Reads a lot better, I think. It's way more dynamic, right? Let's zoom out. See that? A little bit off center, really dynamic. It gives you space to come into the picture, kind of pull yourself in. I like that. I like that. And that might be something too, is that these harsh lines are a little too strong. Maybe turn these lines down so these lines kind of block us and make us turn, which is fine. Which is fine. The way it was constructed before, it worked fine. Next is, I would add a little bit of soft bloom, like a soft airbrushy look. You have that nice happening here, Let's try it in the behind our, in the window. That's where I would like to try it. See if that works. I don't know. I could be wrong again. It's just an idea. Let's see if it works. Oh yeah, it kind of adds a little bit of bloom back there. I like that. It's okay. It's not, no. There's something there. We can play with that. Something there. Has some of that soft blur, some of that ghostly kind of, not ghostly, but you know, kind of adds that that lens bokeh, I think it's called when you take a picture, the bokeh. That's a little bit, and then finally, color-wise, one thing that would add really dynamic color, and you have it here. You're doing it already, which I love. That I'm noticing is to put more green in this field of yellow, and actually in the field of white too. I mean, the colors are really nice. You have really nice choices, and you're doing what I'm about to suggest already. And what that is in any field of color, you want to put some kind of complement in it. So, for example, in this field of yellow, you have a large field of yellow. You want to put some green in it, and you already have that. There's touches of green here and there. I see it, especially here. That looks really nice. In this field of green, you want to put some yellow, and you're already doing that. There's some yellow, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of yellow there, so that's great. Even in the dog, you have some green in her fur, which is great. It's variation. So let's see if we can add some green into the blanket, the yellow. Maybe add some in the white. The white feels a little flat, so let's see if we can make that a little bit more dynamic. So right away, let's see if we can add some green into this yellow. And you do it at the edges there. One way to do it too is kind of like this underpainting technique where you loosely, it only works as an underpainting, you know, you put you tone the canvas with a saturated green, and then it as you cover it with your primary color, you know, some of the green sneaks in, so that's one way to do it. And you know, I'm doing a very cheap and fast Photoshop job, but I hope what I'm trying to say gets there. One artist comes to mind is Jennifer McChristian, and you know, this is not new to her. She's just someone I know and I've seen on Instagram recently. She tones her canvases a pink, but like a saturated pink, and so all that pink shows through in everything. That's one way there. You can even literally draw it. I don't know. I hope that makes sense. I feel like this could use a little more green in there to make it more dynamic. Same here. Let's see if we can add some yellow, and you're already doing it. Let's see if we can throw some yellow in there. Get a little more dynamic. And in this field behind the dog of white, right now the white is a little flat. Let's see if we can add some green in there. To make it a little bit more vibration. I know it's a cool light, but it's a cool light. Let's help it to vibrate a little bit. What I love about white is a great opportunity to make a field vibrate by simply adding subtle distinctions of temperature in the white. So there's cool green. Let's see if we can add some cool yellow into the shadow, right? Warm light, cool shadow. I know this is too abrupt. I'm going to use the magic of Photoshop in a second here. Magic of Photoshop there. And this, you know, I did that very sloppily, but that's the thinking, to add some vibrancy into that white. The white's a little flat. I hope that makes sense. Add the vibrancy into the white, and maybe one touch of depth into the our main character here. A little bit of highlight into her. And just a little bit of modeling with more intense highlight. And, it's probably not accurate, but it adds a little bit of depth. See that? A little bit more depth and form. So that's great. So wonderful painting. I hope these comments were helpful, and I look forward to seeing more of your work. Thank you.